All right. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment was sent by email to the Asbury Park Press and the Co-Star, our official newspapers, on December 17th or December 7th, 2020, and was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building and the borough's website. We have Mr. Malengo,
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Here.
Mr. Palmisano,
Here.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Here.
Mr. Ross. Might be having technical difficulties. Mr. Gregg
Here.
and Mr. Lisco.
Here. Good evening and welcome to the December 17th, 2020 Board of Adjustments meeting. Will you please join the board in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll take care of the administrative tough stuff first. Can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the minutes for the November 19th, 2020 regular meeting?
I'll make that.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo.
Okay, Mr. Malengo,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Abstain.
and Mr. Lisco.
Yes. All right, first up, Mr. Kennedy, is the application for Kevin and Joanne Casey at 307 7th Avenue.
Sure. And Mr. Chairman, that was a resolution to approve an application to demolish an existing single-family structure and reconstruction of a single-family home on the site. And the conditions of note included, the inclusion of a note confirming that the new home will have a height of 37 feet and that the highest portion will be not exceed 37. Inclusion of a note confirming that the storage area of the attic space shall remain unfinished absent further approval. And the inclusion of a note confirming that the ground floor area of the elevated structure shall be appropriately enclosed with a nice decorative material and landscaping so as to promote the overall aesthetic appeal of the property. And furthermore, that said decorative material and landscaping shall be perpetually maintained, replaced, and replanted as necessary. And also a note confirming that the shall arrange for pervious pavers to be utilized. Those were the conditions of note. If that's acceptable, we can adopt that resolution as presented.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. Can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution for Kevin and Joanne Casey at 307 7th Avenue?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Malengo.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
Okay, Mr. Malengo,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano,
No.
is he still there? Mr. Palmisano, you still there? Okay. Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Abstain.
Mr. Lisco.
Yes. All right. Next up is the application is the resolution for Lori Fontana at 211 South Lake Drive.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this was a resolution approving bulk variances with a request to renovate an existing single-family home. And the conditions of note included confirmation that pervious pavers shall be utilized for the driveway. The confirmation that the stone area on the western portion of the property shall be eliminated and maintained as a lawn area. Now I had put in here the inclusion of a note confirming that the top half story would comply with the half story requirements, but I put a whole bunch of question marks, and April was good enough to review the notes and review. And it is April, I believe you said they are seeking a variance for that third level because they do not meet the definition of a half story. So we would just confirm that we were granting a variance for that. Also inclusion of a note confirming that there should be no further intensification or expansion of that structure absent further approval from the zoning board. Confirmation that the air conditioning condenser shall be located in a zoning compliant location. and confirmation that the applicant site will contain 2 lawful parking spaces, one in the new garage and one in the driveway. And we also said that the application shall be specifically reviewed and approved by the borough's floodplain manager. And we also, just for the record, we said the board is furthermore aware that the driveway will be constructed and installed with pervious pavers, the overall lot coverage may be reduced beyond what is approved herein. To the extent the actual lot coverage approved herein is less than 60%, 62%, that's what they asked for, the plan shall be revised accordingly, and no further extension or increase of that lot coverage shall be permitted absent further approval. And we also threw in here, respectfully, the board encourages the applicants to have a professional study the load capacity of the existing structure so as to confirm the ability of the existing structure to support the weight. And I think all the other conditions were pretty standard. So if that's acceptable, we can adopt that, subject to the clarification that we are granting that 3rd-story variance.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. All right, can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution for Laurie Fontana at 211 South Lake Drive?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Malingo. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
All right, Mr. Malengo,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano. He said yes, but he's
You
on
said
mute.
yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Abstain?
and Mr. Lisco.
Yes. All right, next up is the resolution for Sandman Properties at 904 Ocean Avenue.
All right, and this got out late, so I apologize. This was the resolution approving the application to demolish the existing 2.5-story, 5-unit apartment building and construction of a new single-family home with detached garage and associated site improvements. And obviously, as you all talked about at the hearing, the majority of the findings deal with the fact that, isn't it great that we have 5 dwelling units now, and that's non-conforming, and we're going to have it down to 1 unit, which is conforming, and that's, you know, better, more consistent, and we downplayed, or we measured that against some of the variances that were needed. And the conditions of note included that upon this adoption of this resolution and upon expiration of the applicable appeal period, the pre-existing 5-dwelling use shall be deemed to be officially abandoned in favor of single-family use. We also have that confirmation that the downspouts will be directed to the driveway, confirmation that the garage shall contain gutters and leaders, and we had confirmation that the pool equipment shall be located in a zoning compliant location. And we also had, we had confirmation that was said there, the board notes that there are several low wires in the back of the existing building, and as a condition within approval, the applicant's representative shall review the said situation and improve that situation so as to improve the overall safety of the site. I think that was it, Mr. Chairman. If that's acceptable, we can adopt that as presented.
Thanks, Mr. Kennedy. All right, can I have a motion to waive the reading and approve the resolution for Sandman Properties at 904 Ocean Avenue?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Palmisano.
Okay, Mr. Malengo,
Abstain?
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
Mr. Gregg,
Abstain?
Mr. Lisco.
Yes. All right, next up is a resolution establishing the 2021 meeting dates. I think
Real quick on this one, it looks like we'll be doing Zoom for the foreseeable future. Do we want to keep them at 6 o'clock or go back to the 7 o'clock?
does anybody have any objection to keeping them at 6?
6, good for me.
6 is
Yeah.
good.
No, 6 is fine.
Okay,
Sounds good. All right, is that just as simple as making a resolution to establish the 2021 meeting dates without reading them into the record?
yes.
Correct.
All right,
I mean, I think someone should just make a motion and we just
I had it 6 o'clock in the resolution, so I just wanted to
Okay.
confirm you were okay with that.
Okay,
And then, Mr. Chairman, just before we vote on that, I think what April and I were thinking about doing is, as you know, we have to advertise all of our meeting dates. That was always the law. And now with this pandemic and virtual, we sort of had to re-advertise to advertise the login information. And what April and I are thinking about doing is advertising for the whole year and just saying that we're gonna, if it's a live meeting, it's gonna be, you know, at Borough Hall, and if it's a remote meeting, depending on the nature of the pandemic and where we are with emergency restrictions, this was the login information, and we'll just sort of try to bang that out with one notice, you know, an either or for the whole year. And that way, because it gets a little stressful and April has to re-notice and re-advertise, and it gets expensive with all the advertising. So if we can do it, I think April 9 will be ultimately April's call, but I think we're just going to do a big and or type of notice so that we're covered either way, and residents will be encouraged to check the website to see. So that's what we're thinking about doing.
okay, that makes sense to me. So all right, I'll make that motion to establish the 2020 meeting dates. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Greg.
Okay, Mr. Malango,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Palmazano,
yes,
Mr. Hutchinson,
yes,
Mr. Gregg,
Yes.
and Mr. Lisco.
Yes. All right, we have one more business item, I think, for a property on 14th Avenue. I don't have it at my fingertips. You want to do that now? or at the
Yes,
end
I
of the
have
meeting?
it. 112 14th Avenue. Hold on one sec. I have a letter here from Joe Klein and Linda Fung. They came before the board in November of 2018 to build a new house. They are in the process of selling the property, and the buyer is interested in using the approved plans that the board approved. So they are requesting a 2-year extension or whatever time period the board is amenable to. So if they could get that extension on their approvals, that'll help with their sale and get that house built.
Does anybody on the board have an objection to granting that extension?
No.
I see none. So I would say I'll make a motion to grant the extension for 2 years.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you.
And then
Okay.
April, on that, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest instead of us doing a resolution and me unnecessarily spending escrow, we just have April do a letter to the file and the applicant and to reflect, and the minutes reflect that we duly adopted the motion. I think that's the quickest and easiest and cheapest way to get it done and not have to have the applicant spend any more money.
Mhm.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And I don't think there's any other business, but we can probably move right into our applications unless I'm missing something. Does it make sense? Is anybody here for Mandia? You want to just clear that off?
Sure.
Is that okay with you, April, going out of sequence like that?
Actually, we can talk about the Verizon application first too.
Okay. All right.
Mr.
Well,
Kennedy,
then-
talk about that.
Sure. April's holiday gift to everyone was she cleared 2 items off the agenda tonight.
Oh,
So
whoa, what happened?
So the Verizon Wireless, they are going to be carried to April, what's the date?
28th.
April 28th, 2021 at 6:00 p.m. Their attorney was a very nice guy and graciously consented. And just so you know, at the last hearing, you had asked me to communicate with borough officials as to whether or not there have been any, because there were discussions about the status of discussions relative to putting some antenna-like features on the boardwalk. Maybe that's not the right term. They called it a different term. So we're reviewing that with the borough. We communicate with the borough, and we all sort of anticipated that you would like to have a response from the borough before you voted on this application. So with that, we carried it to January. The applicant consented. There will be no need for any further public notice. But just for the record, if anyone is here tonight, zooming in on that application, please come back January
28th.
28th, 2021 at 6 o'clock PM.
Mr. Chairman, before we proceed though, and Mr. Kennedy, I have a question for you that subsequently came up from the last meeting. If we, let's just assume that we vote to approve this, right? Just hypothetically, that property gets a long-term lease. The commercial property gets a long-term lease with Verizon to let that cell tower remain there. But that means the town would now be prohibited or restricted from that parcel of land ever becoming a residential property, which has been what the master plan has called for traditionally over the years for the Ocean Avenue properties. So the fact that that now gets locked in as a commercial property is questions jurisdiction. I mean, just because an objection had been raised, whether or not zoning board has standing on making that, wouldn't that be a planning board issue? Because we do definitely abandon the residential option by approving that, and residential versus commercial is not a zoning board matter.
Here's what I would, excellent question, and I'm gonna be an obnoxious attorney and say, you know, good point, and I don't know. What I would prefer is just because I'm a little leery of having any, and it's an excellent question, and you will get an answer. But I'm a little leery of having any discussion, substantive discussion on it now with the applicant's attorney not technically being present. Because if there ever turns out to be any type of litigation, I wouldn't want there to be a claim that something we said tonight or something I said tonight persuaded the board to vote yes or vote no.
Okay, let me rephrase what I just said then. Mr. Kennedy, before the next meeting, or as you come to the next meeting, please assert whether or not the zoning board has standing on
Yes.
making a decision such as that.
And I'm going to call you and get more information from you if that's okay.
Okay,
And then I will have a comprehensive answer for you at the next meeting if that's acceptable to you all. And I don't mean in any way to shut down
no
the
problem.
discussion.
I understand. I just didn't want to put it off.
No, I
To wait
appreciate
a
it.
whole month, right? And then they come back and then
Absolutely.
we trip up on this. And
Right.
they've got to come back February. It wouldn't be fair to them. So it's actually a favor
Yes,
to get that question answered before we have the next meeting.
I absolutely. And I think that's a very fair thing to do. So I'll speak with you and then I'll find out
Okay,
the answer.
very good.
All right, so do we need a motion to carry that, or it was just the announcement was fine?
Just, we should make a motion to carry that.
All right, I'll make a motion to carry the New York SMSA Limited Partnership DBA Verizon Wireless application to the January 28th meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Malinga.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
All right, excellent. Next up is Louis Mandia at 1708 B Street.
Mr. Chairman, that April and I have spoken with Constantine Bartis. He is the new attorney for the applicant, and we had this conversation yesterday. And he apologized for not getting to us earlier, but he advised what they would like to do is withdraw the application without prejudice. They're considering revising the plans, and they're considering some other elements, and he advised that it would like to withdraw it. April, did we ever get a letter?
Yes, he did send a letter by email.
Okay. And so I was totally fine with the conversation, and we asked him for the letter. So we have that. So, Mr. Chairman, what would be appropriate, in my opinion, if you all agree to it, is to adopt a resolution of dismissal without prejudice. Now, just so you know what this resolution does, it authorizes April to officially close our file on this application. It authorizes her to return any money or to stop processing the application. And it also, as a practical matter, it removes it from her books because, as you know, applications that are on our books too long, there's a potential for them to be automatically approved unless we have the consent to extend. So if it's acceptable, I can speed read a 2-page resolution to have this dismissed.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you for preparing that for this meeting.
Sure. So we'd say, whereas Louis Mandia previously submitted a development application to the Borough of Belmar Zoning Board of Adjustment. The application involved the 1708B, is it B Street, correct? B Street, Belmar, New Jersey property, more formally identified as Block 173, Lot 8. The said application essentially sought approval to reconstruct a second single-family home on the lot, whereas one of the previously existing structures on the 2-dwelling site was destroyed by fire. The application was essentially previously deemed complete and scheduled for a public hearing. The first public hearing occurred on or about June 25th, 2020. At the end of that meeting, the applicant's then representatives, with their consent, the application was adjourned to about August 27th. And with the consent of the applicant's representative, that hearing was again adjourned. And the continued public hearing was scheduled to occur on or about today, December 17th, 2020, and on or about December 16th, 2020, the board secretary, myself, and the applicant's new attorney had a telephone conversation. And in that conversation, the applicant's attorney advised that the applicant was withdrawing the application without prejudice, so that certain plan revisions could be considered and pursued. And whereas under the circumstances and for record-keeping purposes, the zoning board should administratively dismiss the application without prejudice. The failure to do so could, under certain circumstances, potentially result in an automatic approval of the application. And whereas such an automatic approval would not advance the interests of the borough or the zoning board or the residents of the borough, now therefore be it resolved that at the request of and with the consent of the applicant's representatives, the subject Mandy application is hereby dismissed without prejudice, that the applicant shall cause all outstanding escrow charges and other appropriate charges to be satisfied in full. 3, that upon satisfaction of all applicable charges, any remaining escrow can be returned to the applicant, and that the board secretary and attorney and zoning officer are authorized to take any reasonable actions necessary to effectuate the intentions of the within resolution. So, Mr. Chairman, if that's adopted, we go on and close the pages on that file.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. All right, so can I have a motion to withdraw the application for 1708 B Street without prejudice?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grigg. And a second from Mr. Fitzgerald, or you're asking a question?
A second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed?
All right. Next up is the application for Thomas Pimpinelli at 314 14th Avenue. As April is handling the administrative duties, I have to recuse myself because I'm in the notification area on this application. But I also am running the meeting with Phil Grigg, so if I could just stay as a panelist here, computer-wise, I will not weigh in any way.
Very good.
Okay.
And April, on your end of the notice, you're okay with your end, correct?
Yep.
And just for the record, I'm going to ask if anyone had any objections to notice. So if anyone has any objections to notice, how would they log into you or raise their computer hands or email into you?
Yep, they can raise their hand. If they're on here by phone, they dial *9, or they can send an email to clerk@belmar.com.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, just moving backwards for 1 second, I think we forgot to do this, but just for the record, I had sent out a little bit of a article from New Jersey Planner magazine about sort of all the new weird rules that we sort of have to deal with in this pandemic. And the overwhelming takeaway was that under April's leadership, we are overwhelmingly doing much more than is required in terms of being transparent and open with the public. So shout out to our friend April for that. And number 2, I was remiss, we probably should have said this at the beginning. Under the Open Public Meetings Act, there's a little bit of a change we have to say. We have to say that this application or notice of this meeting was printed in the 2 official newspapers, and also notice of the login information was presented. And April just sort of indicated how people can log in and ask questions and comments. And that's sort of the new thing as part of the Opening Public Meetings Act. we have to incorporate that. So I'll be more formal next time. I'll have something written out that we can just sort of make part of our pandemic world. But that having been said, we're going to swear in Ted Bianchi. Ted, you are our zoning officer and construction official. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Okay. And then what we will mark into the record is A1 is the application package. A2 is the minor land use zoning permit. And A3 is, I'm sorry, A3 is the architectural plans, and it's prepared by Zimbler Architecture and is dated September 23rd, 2020. April, did anyone zoom in to ask any questions about the notice, sufficiency of the notice?
No.
Okay. And so what we'll do is April is the witness here. The applicant?
Yep, they're all here. Tom, is there anyone else that's joining your group? I'm just gonna get them to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Do I have to start my video, I guess?
Tom, you're fine.
Okay.
Is there anyone else joining you?
I believe Alan Zimbler, my architect, will be on as well. I'm not sure.
Yep, he's here.
Okay.
Yeah, and Tom, I'm on. You have to say your wife.
Okay, my wife changes on. Sorry.
Okay, so let me now April, okay, there's hello Ginger. My name is
Hello, how are
Kevin.
you?
Good. And is Tom joining us video
Yeah,
wise?
Tom, you have to say accept the video.
Okay. There we go. Did it work? I started the video. It's not coming on. Technical difficulties, 1 second.
No problem.
Use your machine. Sorry about that.
Come over to my phone.
Yeah, my experience is if there's two of you in the same room, sometimes it creates a bounce back echo.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do it from here.
Okay. So Mr. Acting Chair, with your permission, may I swear in the witnesses? Okay. Okay, so if Tom and Ginger, good evening and welcome to the Belmar Zoning Board. If you could just both raise your hands, please, and state your name and spell your last name.
Thomas Pimpinelli, P as in Peter, I, M as in Mary, P as in Peter, I, N as in Nancy, E-L-L-I.
I'm Virginia Pimpinelli, Pimpinelli, my proper name.
Okay, good evening. And if you will both keep your right hands up for a second, do you both swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
I do.
Okay. And did you want me to swear in your architect?
Please.
Okay. Sir, if you could just state your name, please.
Alan Zimbler, Z-I-M-B-L-E-R.
All right. And you're testifying tonight in your capacity as an architect?
Yes,
All right. If you could just raise your right hand. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Okay. And you can give your credentials momentarily before you start your testimony, but just Mr. Chair, if I could just get a couple of procedural things out of the way. In terms of Mr. and Mrs. Pimpinelli, we're talking about 314 14th Avenue, correct?
Yes.
And are you all the owners of the property?
Yes, sir.
And how long have you owned it roughly?
We bought our house in May of 2010.
Okay. And what exists on the site right now?
I'm sorry?
What exists on the site right now?
We have a home. It's a 970 square foot home, which is
All
on
right.
a
So it's a single family home right now. Do you live there right now?
no, we don't live there permanently.
Okay.
We're in North,
Is it occupied right now?
not currently, no.
Okay. And so I understand you want to construct a new home. Why don't you tell the board about what it is you're doing and why you're doing it and the details and the variance relief that you need?
Sure. So my wife and I, we bought our house back in 2010. We have 3 grown children who are now starting families of their own, when we're unfortunately outgrowing the house. So we love the location. We prefer not to leave, and we've made so many close friends with our neighbors. So given the size of the house and the fact that we're on a slab of concrete, I've learned after meeting with our architect, Alan Zimbler, who's on the call now, that the best way to make our home large enough to accommodate my family and provide 3 parking spaces for our cars is to knock down the existing structure and to rebuild. And to do this, it requires a variance and some waivers, which I'm hoping that the Construction and Zoning Board will consider and approve. But I think in terms of what the denials were, Alan could probably elaborate a little more on that. I could go over some, I guess that's enough now. I don't want to get too windy. Is there more you need from my side?
No, I mean, if you want to turn it over to your architect.
Alan, would you like to take over from here?
Sure, as long as you guys want to accept my credentials, or
Sure. Why don't you just state your credentials for the record?
I'm licensed in New York and New Jersey. I've been licensed for 30 some odd years. I've testified before this board as well as a number of other boards in South Central Jersey. A member of the American Institute of Architects. My offices are in Freehold.
Thank you, Mr. Zimbler. We accept your credentials.
Okay. Do you want me to share my screen to show the work we're doing and the exhibits that we've provided?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the plan of the.
Mr. Kenny, are you gonna mark the exhibits?
You know what? Thank you. Are these identical to the plans which were already
Yes.
submitted? Okay.
Yes.
So we've already marked them as A3.
Okay, thank you.
If you'd like, I can show you a picture of the house and mark that as a new exhibit, the existing house.
Sure.
Would that be helpful? Okay, so I'm not sure. Are you seeing the house?
No.
Okay, you're seeing the other screen? Okay, hold on. I have to see. Okay.
All right. So let me mark that as A4. Now, April, do you have this or do you need to get this somehow?
Yeah, I would have to send it over.
Yeah, I would
somehow.
get a copy of it for the
We're going to
file.
mark it into the record. So, Mr. Zimbler, would you send this to her tomorrow?
Absolutely.
So we're going to mark as A5 is a picture of the existing home. When was that taken? Roughly?
Yeah, I can tell you. I can look at the.
Just about. I mean, was it this year?
No, just give me 1 second. I can tell
Sure.
you the date. It was September 2019.
All right, September of 2000. And did you take it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's A4. Thank you.
All right. So just to show you what's there now, it's a small home on a slab. Obviously, as Mr. Pimpinelli stated, it would be difficult for us to expand this house to give them what they need with respect to footings, foundations, and adding a second floor and so forth. So what I'm going to do now is I'll share. So this is the site plan, the location of the house. You can see in the red outline with the kind of the gray hatching, that's where the existing footprint is. And what we're proposing is a new, larger house. The existing house, we can look over here at the zoning, which I'm sure you've seen already. The existing house is non-conforming as far as side yard setback. It's existing is 4 feet, where 5 is required. And we're proposing to expand that so that they can have a larger footprint slightly. The existing house is conforming with respect to building coverage, and we're looking to increase the building coverage, as we can see here on this chart under building coverage. We're maintaining the existing lot coverage is under covered, and our new coverage intends not to exceed the lot coverage. So the variances, I believe, that we're looking for, the relief, the site, the property itself is undersized by a couple 30 some odd square feet. The front yard setback is non-conforming existing. We're not changing that. And the side yard, we're looking for a larger side yard, a smaller side yard, which is again non-conforming now. And we're looking for a larger building coverage relief. So if you'd like me to go into the design and what we're doing, I'd be happy to do that.
Sure.
Okay, so it's a two-story house. As you can see, the first floor is about 1,000 square feet. The second floor is about 1,100.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Say that again. Is the proposed home is 2,000 square feet?
The proposed home is 2,000 square feet between
Okay.
the first and second floors. The existing house was half that, so we're more than doubling it.
Got it.
And essentially, it's on the first floor. It's a large open area with a small dining area, a small living area, bathroom, laundry, shower, and washer dryer area. We're proposing to extend the front deck to, I believe, what is compliant. And we're actually modifying the outline of the outside of the house, so it's set back a little bit further. If I can go to the second page, this shows you the plans. So this is the first floor plan: living, dining, kitchen area, laundry, mechanical room, powder room, and the stair up to the second floor where we have 4 bedrooms and a small sitting area. We also are proposing an outdoor deck, which would be a deck which is covering over the first floor. The outside of the house would be fairly common, siding, shingles, and so forth. That's about it.
Could I just ask a couple questions just for the resolution? In terms of the existing house is about 1,000 square feet and the
Correct.
proposed is about 2,000 square feet?
Yeah, 2,100 versus 980, more or less.
2,100.
2,145 versus 980.
2,145. And then right now it's 1 story and the proposal is 2 stories?
Correct.
And right now, number of bedrooms in the existing home?
Oh, Tom, how many do you have in the existing?
There's 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom.
All right, 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. And the proposed home will have how many bedrooms?
5.
And how many bathrooms?
2.5.
2.5.
2.5. And just, do you know the existing height of the existing structure?
I don't offhand.
Okay. And what about the height of the proposed structure?
Hold on. 25 feet
Thank you.
to the ridge, yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, those were my questions. Sorry.
Okay, very good. So we will, excuse me, 1 second. April, I sent you the picture. I was able to take a screenshot of it, the picture of the existing. So you can check your inbox. So that step's been taken care of.
Good.
And I don't have my cheat notes here, but I believe we open up for board questions at this point.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a particular order, so I'll go in what my Zoom looks like. Mr. Palmisano, if you start.
As long as, they have all the drainage and everything is, up to code and that was the only things I was gonna ask, that they have the runoff for the drainage and all that in place.
We haven't retained the site engineer yet, but I believe whatever's necessary, we will have reviewed and put forth for the board as part of the stipulation for the approval.
And so to Mr., if I may, to Mr. Palmisano's point, if the application is approved, you would submit grading and drainage details and a stormwater management plan to the borough engineer for his or her review and approval?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Palmisano, if you wouldn't mind holding for 1 second, I just have a question, because I like to, before we open up for board questions, just make sure that we confirm the specific variances that are being requested right now. And clearly, we have a building coverage variance where it's going to be 37%, where 30 is required. I noticed on Ted's notes that there was building over a porch was another one, and then driveway not having a 1 foot setback. Does that summarize the three requests here, or is that A, is that accurate, and B, are there any more?
It's the side yard setback, and I believe the front yard setback as well.
Well, Ted described it as driveway not wide enough, so I'm not really clear on whether or not we're having a driveway with variance or a side setback, or both.
I believe initially we had to prove to Ted that we had the 3 car spaces. And to do that, to provide the 3 car spaces, the 9 by 20 spaces, we had to move the house 1 foot to the left, which makes that setback slightly different. And it gives us a 9 foot 10 inches. We're sort of, I think, from less of a foot setback on the right-hand side, it's only 10 inches. So the proposed is 9 foot 10 as opposed to the 10 foot. It's 2 inches short of the 1 foot setback on the driveway side.
I apologize, because when I come off mute, Santa Claus is driving by my house right now. So you got a lot of noise in the background.
I was saying initially.
All right, so I will ask Ted perhaps. Ted, does that 2 inches trigger our need to carry the driveway width as a variance, or can we consider it de minimis and not have to do that? Ted, you're on mute.
I'm looking at 9 foot 10 from the property line to the structure. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think we're in
that's
compliance.
without the 1 foot setback. Correct?
Without the 1 foot setback, what is it, in addition to the 9 feet? Correct.
Yeah, I mean, the parking spot is 9 by 20.
Right, so you would need 10 feet from the side yards, from the property line?
It's 9 foot from the 1 foot setback.
Right, so you would need 10 feet essentially from the property line, where we have 910,
Right.
correct?
And how many spots are you gonna provide?
3.
Okay,
You can see them outlined here, 1, 2, 3.
right.
We pulled the porch back and we took the generator pad off of the side yard and put them on the deck so that we can get the 3 spots.
Okay.
Ted, are 3 spaces required?
Any windows on the back deck?
On the back, by the kitchen.
How about on the other side where the generator is?
No, there's a laundry room there.
No windows.
No, there's a laundry room here, right?
Okay. And you're building over the front porch?
Yes.
Have you come up with an average front yard setback?
For the neighbors,
Yes.
I'm not sure that we had that done.
We provided.
Yes,
that.
we
did
Yes,
provide
you
that.
did,
we
right?
provided that.
Okay.
Yep.
We did that.
And what is that? It's not marked on the plan.
Yeah, get the definition. I think it's attached to the application, but my husband's gonna grab it. You said if we're building over the porch, but we're technically not building over the front porch, right? We're gonna have a front porch, but there's not anything on top of the front porch. There's a roof.
Right,
But
it's covered.
okay, it's covered.
Okay, so just to try to recap here, and before we continue with board questions, so we're surely know that building coverage where 30 is required. We're going to 37, so that's one variance. There is a question that was originally flagged for building over porch. Ted, you feel that that is a variance, correct, based on the design you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, does the porch go underneath of that front, that jut out in the front there?
Does yeah, the porch extends to the front door, and they have a roof
If you
covering.
if you follow the front door across, that's all porch
Yeah, yes,
underneath. So you're
correct.
building over the front porch.
Well, you can see where these columns, these 4 columns are in the front here.
Right, right.
That's the roof covering that's coming out to that line.
But it's an eave, it's not living space above.
No, it's not living space above, it's a roof. If I
Right.
can show you you can see here on the second floor plan, this is a roof.
Right.
And if we look at the elevation, you can see this is all roof
That
coming out.
that looks pretty standard, Ted. So are we okay with the?
Can I see a side elevation on that?
Sure. So this is the roof section. And the other side, it's a little deeper because it goes back a little further in.
Okay, so the part that I'm looking at that extends over the porch roof,
The part that extends over the porch. Oh, the section
Yes.
here? Yeah, that's
Yes.
2 stories. That's not going over the roof. That's on both floors. So this whole section extends up. So there's no living space on top of the roof here because it's all part of the structure.
okay,
So you can see it here. This is the bump out, and then it's the
Right.
bump out. So there's no living space under the porch area here. It's actual structure.
okay, all right.
Okay, so with that, again, we have the building coverage as the first. It appears we just decided that the build over porch is not triggering a variance because it is not building over the porch. It appears that we do need a variance for the driveway because there's not 1 foot clearance. So even though you're going 9'10", it appears that it would have to be 10 feet plus 1. So I believe the driveway width sounds like it's triggering a variance. Unless
Is it
there's
9 feet plus 1?
9 feet plus 1.
Not 10 feet plus 1. We're only
Right.
2 inches short.
Wait, I apologize. Ted, correction. It is 9 feet, right? So we would need 9 feet plus 1. So they're going 10 inches where 12 would be required for that driveway side setback.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so we're just going to recommend that you, or we'll put it up for question for the board members, but it sounds like we would, for those 2 inches, at least say, it's de minimis, but it would require a variance because it's not 12. But that's more a technical point than it is what would sound like a serious concern. And I just want to confirm, 3 spots for a 5-bedroom house is considered adequate number of spaces, Ted?
Sorry, Mark?
Three parking spots for a 5-bedroom home is adequate? There's no
Yes.
parking variance being triggered, okay? And then there was a question about front setback and the average. Is the front setback triggering a variance as designed?
What's the average front yard setback?
I have the sheet in front of me. You want me to average the numbers out and give you that?
Well, it's right here. It's right, it says it right there. That's the total.
Oh, so it's 7, so the porch setback,
There's a dwelling,
The
there's a
yes.
porch, and there's a steps.
yeah.
Oh, here it is.
Oh,
There you go.
You got that, okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
So the porch setback appears to be 7.2, whereas we're 10 feet.
How about the dwelling? What is that?
The dwelling, let's see. The dwelling is 16 feet. And the average is 12 and a half, 12.6.
So the porch is 6 feet wide,
Well, at the narrowest part, yes.
6 feet deep, okay. Ted, variance or yes or no?
I'm trying to determine this here.
Okay, no problem. No rush.
I think we also need it for the other side of the house.
The left side, yeah. Puts it up your 5 from 4.
Okay, while Ted's doing that, I'll just, in the purpose of time, take it from the top again. Building coverage, 37, proposed, 30 is required, 37 is proposed. That's a variance.
37.5.
37.5. Thank you for correcting that. The driveway, the 1 inch, I'm sorry, the 1 foot setback, where 1 foot is required, 10 inches is proposed. So the driveway side setback is triggering a variance. There is a left side setback.
Right, of 3 feet versus 5 feet.
Yeah, 3 versus 5.
I thought it was
I
4.
thought it was 4 feet versus 5 feet.
I apologize. You're correct about that too.
It's 4 feet versus 5 feet, I believe.
No, the second floor overhangs.
Oh,
It's 4 feet at the first floor, but we have a setback on the second floor.
okay.
I mean, a cantilever.
Right. Okay. All right. And then as we're waiting for Ted for the front setback, that would be the 4th variance if it's required, Ted.
Also, the lot area, if that's a required variance, it's short of the 4,000 minimum.
That's an existing condition, right?
Right, yes.
Yeah, that doesn't require variance.
Okay.
The front yard, the average is okay, Mark.
All right. So that's not triggering a variance. So
No,
and this is up for the applicant and and or attorney typically, but for the applicant to surmise. So I'm not trying to lead anything here, but for my accounting, there are 3 variances that you're requesting. If that total is different, the responsibility of ensuring that if it were 4 or 5 is on you and not the board. And I just want to make sure that you understand, I'm trying to help you here by pointing out and help the board by we know what variances you're going for. However, if additional variances are needed, that's your responsibility to inform the board, not vice versa.
Okay.
Okay,
very
thank you.
much.
Okay, and with that, Tom, do you have any further questions or we'll just start moving down the line?
No, I don't.
Great. Okay, I've got, let's go to Phil next.
Thanks, Mark. Mark, I have 5 variances: a side yard, I have building coverage, I have lot size, and the driveway.
I
That's
think,
4.
yeah, I think the lot size, Ted just answered that, saying that it's an existing.
Oh, okay. But I do have a question about the driveway. If we approve this, are we approving an undersized parking spot, or are we approving a smaller side yard or a clearance between the property line and the driveway? I would rather approve an undersized parking spot than approve something that's going to it doesn't really encroach on the neighbor, but it gets close to the neighbor, closer than allowed to the neighbor. So I'd rather not approve that, and I'd rather approve a 2-inch undersized parking spot or 3 2-inch undersized parking spots.
I think that's a great point. I really do. I think that's an excellent
that's pretty
point.
much it. It's a parking issue.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point. We'll respect the 1 foot setback for the driveway to begin, and we'll take the 2 inches off the width of the driveway. So the variance being requested should shift from a side yard setback variance for 10 inches versus 12 required to a undersized width that it would be 8 feet 10 inches instead of where 9 is required. Does that sound right? To the applicant or to Mr. Zimbler?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
I like that. I like that.
Yep, great idea.
All right, Mark. Mark, that's all I have for you.
Okay, moving down the line, Mr. Malongo.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman. I have a question for Alan.
Yeah.
Obviously, this driveway is a trying to make it a better condition for parking. Now, existing gas meter and 2 balusters are in the driveway. I don't see that relocation on the plan.
Okay, we'll pick that up.
So you're planning on moving that and relocating that, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Second question is
I'm
the
sorry, say it again, Mr. Malongo. Relocating what?
relocate the gas meter and remove the balusters.
You're familiar with that, Tom?
Yes, absolutely. We definitely want that done for sure.
Okay.
They're located right now in the existing driveway, Kevin.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second question for Alan. Now, the exterior wall opposite the driveway appears to me that it's going to have to be a fire rated wall.
Correct.
Okay, I didn't see that on the plan. So you're going to put that on the,
Well, that'll be in the
Final.
construction documents, not in the zoning documents.
Okay.
We also,
and the applicants are aware of that?
yes.
Yes.
and-
Yes.
Okay. Okay, no further questions, Mr. Chairman?
Great catch on that meter, Mr. Malongo.
Thank you.
That would interfere with your parking if it was left there. Okay, this is, I have a random order here. It's Mr. Hutchison next.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman.
I'm doing my best.
Is there a basement or a crawl space, or is this on a slab, or what do you have plans? Where are mechanicals and things of that nature?
Well, we have a mechanical room. I don't know if I'm not sharing my screen. I can share my screen again. On the first floor, we have a mechanical room for the
Yeah,
mechanicals, and we anticipate this is going to be on a crawl space.
on a crawl space. Okay. You're not in any kind of a flood zone or anything like that there, right?
No.
No, not at all. We
So you're
lucked out.
with that. I think that's the only question I have.
Great. I'm looking at my screen and I think I've covered all of the board members and as far as myself is concerned, I think the other board members have addressed any questions that I previously had. So with that, we'll close the board question portion and open it up for public comment. If there's any member of the public that has joined this meeting that would like to speak about this application, there'd be no better time than right now.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, April, would you just say your login or how do the people raise their computer hands?
Sure, they just click the raise hand button or dial *9 if they're here by phone. Or they can also send their questions to clerk@belmar.com. And it looks like we have one. Just remember to state your name and address before you speak. Go ahead.
Hi, is this me?
Yep, name and address, please.
Okay, hi, Don Winters, 302 14th Avenue, and I'm here in support of this application. I've gotten to know Tom and Ginger over the last several years since we've been here, and they've been great neighbors. I can't imagine not approving this. They're awesome people, and I wish they were down here full time, but maybe in the future. So I wish you luck with your application.
Thanks very much, Don.
You're welcome.
If, are there any other members of the public that want to come forward? Please click your raise hand button.
Nobody else.
No other members, so we'll close the public portion of the meeting and proceed to board comments.
Yep.
And with that, I'll try to follow the same order I did before. So Mr. Craig, if you would lead off, please.
Palmisano before, but that's okay. I look at this plan and it looks like an improvement for the neighborhood. I have no problem with it, and I would be voting yes on this.
Thank you, sir. And you are correct. Mr. Palmisano was lead off before.
Okay, I have no problem with it. I would agree.
Thank you, Mr. Palmisano. Mr. Hutchison.
Mr. Acting Chairman, yeah, I think this is a fairly straightforward, fairly minimal kind of ask, and I'd be for it.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Malongo.
Yes, I like the design. I think the architect did a great job. He didn't overpower the house, the neighbors. I think it fits into the landscape, and I would be, I would approve this application.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Malongo. And for me, I wanted to comment on the architect first. I think the fact that you showed the old footprint compared to the new footprint, both, you know, from an overhead and side view, was an excellent thing for we as a board to see, and we appreciate that very much. The design is well within tolerance, both on the height and the footprint. You know, the things you're asking for are minimal in nature compared to some of the things that come before this board. And I am certainly would be in favor of this. It's going to be a huge improvement to the neighborhood. It's a beautiful little home you have right now, but it's going to be a wonderful home that you're going to put up. So I too am in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So with that, Mr. Kennedy, I think if you were keeping copious notes, we'll defer to you to try to keep track of the little changes we just made.
Excellent. And Mr. Chairman, if the board is inclined to approve the application, some of the things we talked about, or some of the things that we typically talk about, conditions of approval would include basically compliance with all the promises and commitments and representations the development team made tonight. We usually put a 24-month time frame within which the certificate of occupancy is to be issued, or any agreed upon extension. Obviously, obtaining any necessary demolition permits. Now, we didn't say this, but in honor of one of our friends who's not here tonight, do we want to include something about good faith effort to put utilities underground?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Kennedy. I'll mention it to the applicants. You know, typically when you build a home like this, you don't really want the overhead wires. You would take the opportunity to bury those wires if it's possible. So we generally ask the applicants, if it's not going to be too much of a strain, it'd be for your benefit and the town's benefit to get those wires underground. So we'd ask that you, as long as it's not a burden, that you'd make every effort to do that.
Sure.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. And then we had the grading and drainage and runoff to be reviewed and approved by the board engineer and, I'm sorry, borough engineer. And I don't know if he or she has any, requirements, but you'll have to work that out to their satisfaction. And in terms of, Mr. Gregg, if you could just give me a little bit more clarification, because your change in terms of, I didn't get it all written down about the change of the variance for the driveway width versus the parking space. So just say that again.
Sure. Kevin, what I was thinking was I wanted to maintain the 1 foot property from the property line to the edge of the driveway. I want to maintain that 1 foot. So where we're losing the 2 inches, we'll lose the 2 inches on the width of the driveway, not on the 12-inch or 1 foot section between the driveway and the property line. Because I didn't want to bring that driveway closer to the neighbor's property.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So the variance shifts from being a side yard setback of 1 foot for the driveway to a short width on the driveway itself Mr. Zimbler, if you please correct me if I'm misstating the actual calculations, but you know, where 9 is required, 8.8 foot 10 inches will be the design.
Correct.
Okay, so that's 9. That is for the driveway setback, I guess.
Width.
The width of the driveway.
Width. Okay, and then the side yard setback becomes what?
1 foot to the driveway. It's 10. It'd be 10 foot. Not 8 foot 10, 9 foot 10 overall.
Got it. You know what? And I'll work out the details with Ted and Mr. Zimbler to make sure that I have it properly.
Okay.
And we'll discuss it. I mean, but I got the gist of it. So thank you. That was very helpful. We're also going to,
Wait, hold on a second, Mr. Kenny, you just brought something up, and I just want to ask Mr. Zimbler to confirm. Is it a 10-foot setback from the house to the side property line?
It's 5-foot minimum and 10-foot combined. So the setback to the property line to the house on that side is 9'10".
So it's possible it's 9'10", where 10 is required. I hate to be parsing over inches here, but we don't want you to come back for an alternate variance if there's an accounting error that's taking place here. I'm almost certain it would be a 10-foot side setback on that side of the house, and you're looking for 9'10".
so why don't we, I think what you're suggesting is, out of an abundance of caution, to the extent that that variance is necessary, we grant that variance?
Yes, I just think it's a 10-foot side setback, and they're providing 9'10".
Okay, so.
And as Mr. Craig indicated, the 1-foot side setback for the property line will be left alone, but the driveway will become 8'10". So I think that there's two variances here. One
Okay.
for the side setback where 10 is required, 9'10" is provided, and the driveway width where 9 is required, 8'10" is provided.
Got.
And then you have a setback on the left side of the house,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Yes.
And that was
The driveway, the combined side yard setback for that property is 10 feet total.
Right, that's what I thought. It's 5 minimum,
It's not
10
15.
combined.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not 15, it's 5 and 5.
Right, so we don't need a variance for the 10-foot side yard because
No.
it's only a 5-foot required.
No, the only issue on that side is the parking.
Correct. That's what I thought.
Right,
It's 10-foot is combined, not minimum.
correct.
And then we also had the confirmation that to Mr. Malango's point.
Kevin, I'm sorry. I think what they just said I have to stand corrected possibly. I thought it was 10 and 5, and the comments that were just made.
It's 5 and 5, Mark.
I understand, but you can't park a car in 5 foot, right? So
No,
once
you can't.
So once you put 10 feet or 9'10" on one side, you ate up everything that's left. So I think we're good on, it sounds like we're good on that
Interesting.
side, except for the driveway, and we're short on the other side.
Correct.
Right, okay.
Okay, so then I will eliminate the side yard setback variance that we were just talking about, the 10
Yeah,
feet.
there's no issue. The only issue is, as Mr. Craig indicated, it's 8'10" where 9 is required for driveway width, that's all. And
Okay.
then the shortfall is gonna come out of the other side of the house.
Got it. And then, all right, thank you for that. And then, per Mr. Malango's point, we're going to confirmation that the gas meter will be relocated and remove the balusters which are in the existing driveway. And that's got to be a fire rated wall per prevailing UCC regulations. And I think, Mr. Chairman, that was the overall gist of the conditions.
Do you have the building coverage variance?
Yes, so we'll have the building coverage variance that was 30 versus 37.5.
Correct.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman, if Mr. and Mrs. Pimpinelli, you've heard those conditions. Are those conditions acceptable to you?
Yes.
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, let's tee it up. If the board's so inclined, we can have a motion to approve.
Let's go to a vote.
So moved.
We will start with Mr. Craig again.
I'm sorry, we already, we're voting now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we need a motion, I guess, to, and Mr. Gregg, did you make a motion, I heard?
I will make that motion, yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so April will do a roll call.
Wait. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Malango,
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald,
Yes.
Mr. Palmisano,
Yes.
Mr. Hutchinson,
Yes.
and Mr. Gray.
Yes.
Okay.
With that, the motion's approved. Congratulations.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so
Thank both
much.
of you. I appreciate it. And thank you, April, as well.
Good luck. It's going to be a beautification of another home on 14th Avenue. That's wonderful.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you.
guys.
We're
Thank you.
excited.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, Ellen.
All right. I don't think we have anything else.
There's no other business, April?
Nope.
Mr. Kennedy, any other closing comments?
No. Happy holidays to all.
Everybody have a happy holidays.
You know
Happy
what?
holidays,
I'm turning
everyone.
this over. I'm turning this over to the actual chairman now. Because it's no longer on the-
I think you did a great job.
John, are you still there?
Yeah, yeah. And congratulations.
Happy
Mr.
holidays.
It's all yours, John. Go ahead. Here you go.
Let's get the heck out of here, right? Hey, happy holidays, everybody. Can I have an emotion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that.
So moved.
All right, that's two.
Second that motion.
All in
Kevin.
favor?
Aye.
Kevin,
Good night,
Kevin, I
everybody.
got a question.
Night,
Have a good night,
everybody.
everybody.
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
the Verizon application, that's a use variance, correct?
As it stands, it is yes.
Okay, that's an R75 zone, and that's an expansion of a non-conforming use.
Right. And then I'm going to speak to Mr. Fitzgerald, and I'm going to speak to the other attorney, and I'll have and you, and I'll have a more of an elaborate answer before the January meeting.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Night,
All right,
everybody.
guys.
Everybody, thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And you.